My lords, today we shall cover the largest, most brutally destructive, and yet decisive fleet battle that occurred, or rather we think occurred, in Stellaris history. The fall of the Cybrex. 600,000 years ago, an empire called the Kerr created an artificial intelligence, a defensive protocol, a military project designed to be a bastion, a shield around their world. Whatever the Kerr's intentions, they did not come to pass, and the artificial intelligence called the Cybrex was born. The Cybrex did not shield the Kerr from the dangers of the galaxy. Instead, the Cybrex began a galaxy-wide rampage, starting with the Kerr. They turned on their creators and systematically annihilated them, their home planet, and then several other colony systems, until their empire simply ceased to exist. The Cybrex then moved on from empire to empire, system to system, rampaging, mutilating, enslaving, and killing, seemingly without rhyme or reason. However, in the 17th year since the Cybrex emerged, it appeared a total re-evaluation of their programming occurred. The why is not clear. It may be that battlefield attrition played a role. However, given the evidence of Cybrex superiority, we feel that seems quite unlikely. Far more likely is a shift in their fundamental ideology. But whatever the reason, they began to withdraw from known space over the next century, retreating to a system where they had built a wonderful megastructure that we have come to know as a ring world. This ring world, the first of its kind, housed and sustained their entire civilization. Cybrex, it would appear, stayed here dormant for millennia, until a lone exploration vessel came upon the system. Histories had well documented the Cybrex genocides and their wave of untold destruction. It was recognised by the organics occupying the surrounding space that the Cybrex was a real threat, and one that should be dealt with. As such, an alliance was formed between several neighbouring organic powers, organising the largest military fleet that has ever been assembled. This fleet advanced on the Cybrex home system with the firepower of 1,000,000 suns. I'm pleased to bring you several first-person accounts of the day. The first comes from a communications officer aboard the vessel Grand Shadow. I sat in a dimly lit communication room aboard the Shadow, the flagship of our mighty alliance. I noticed my hands trembling. Was it nerves, or those combat stims that we were issued? Damn it, I had to pull myself together. These next few hours would determine the fate of our entire battle group, not to mention our families back home. The Cybrex was easily the biggest threat our fledgling civilization had ever faced, and yet we had the honour of leading the fleet into battle. Quite how we pulled that one off, I cannot tell you. My fingers danced across the holographic display as I tried to maintain comms with the diverse fleets that had come together to confront this menace. The fleet was made up of several thousand larger vessels and tens of thousands of smaller strike craft and bombers. 5 galactic empires committed their space forces to this armada, and although all spoke the galactic standard, we had never fought together in this manner before. Nobody had. Maintaining clear communications was going to be a nightmare once we made contact with the enemy. Outside the thick armoured windows, stars streaked by in a mesmerising display of cosmic beauty. I barely had time to appreciate it. The hum of the ship's engines and the chatter of the crew members filled the room. We had assembled a force so massive it was hard to comprehend. The firepower of 1,000,000 suns, they said. The prospect of confronting the Cybrex, who had once ravaged entire civilizations, frankly, filled me with dread. What's more, they hadn't attacked us. We were the bloody aggressors. That didn't sit well at all with me. Maybe these robots had had enough of war and were content to rust on that giant space ring. But this was all well above my pay grade. What do I know? The brass had been clear with their orders. We would unleash the fury of our fleet upon this Cybrex ringworld. They would be wiped from the face of the galaxy, never again allowed to sally forth and purge upon organic life. Personally, the singular benefit I saw to this mission, if we all came back from it, would be the unity that it would create throughout the Galactic Council. For far too long they bickered and complained about the divinity of life, or buzzword standardization. At least this had everyone working together for once. even if it took literal months to get a crisis declared in the Galcom. The next report we have is from the captain of the destroyer-class vessel, the Stalwart. Klaxons blared, and the red emergency lighting bathed the command deck of the Stalwart in an eerie crimson glow. My hand gripped the armrest of my chair, and my pulse quickened as the Cybrex threat finally materialized before us. Cybrex Alpha, the ring world, loomed in the distance, a colossal behemoth of metal and machinery. I felt the weight of the entire crew's expectations and fear resting heavily upon me. We were a small ship in a colossal fleet, but we would play a critical role in this battle. I believed in them all, but I knew my duty was to inspire, to remind them of the purpose that brought us here. I took a deep breath and began to speak. Crew of the Stalwart, this is your captain speaking. Today we will face the greatest challenge of our lives. The Cybrex, the scourge that once terrorized the galaxy, has been found. We stand on the precipice of history. Our actions will echo for eternity. I looked around, meeting the eyes of every bridge officer. They needed to know that I believed in them as much as they believed in me. We may be a smaller vessel in this immense fleet, but do not underestimate the power we hold. We are the Stalwart. We carry the spirit of determination in our hearts, the spirit of unity that unites our alliance. Each one of you has chosen to stand upon this ship, to be here, to face this enemy, to protect our galaxy, and to ensure a future for all those who call this place home. I raised my arm, pointing to the ship's view screen. The gigantic ringworld loomed in the distance. That ringworld is a symbol of the Cybrex power. There is no other structure in the galaxy of its like. Our mission is to ensure that this ancient threat is vanquished, never again allowed to infect the galaxy. I could see a spark of determination in the eyes of each crew member, and that spark ignited a fire in my own heart. We are not alone in this fight. Look around you. We are part of a formidable alliance, a coalition of species who have set aside their differences for the greater good. Our comrades in the fleet, every ship, every crew, they all share our conviction. Together we will be an unstoppable force, a wall of unity against the storm. I paused, letting the words sink in, giving my crew a moment to reflect on the importance of the battle they were about to engage in. The Cybrex may have once installed fear, but today we shall be the ones who make them tremble. We fight for our families, our friends, our homeworlds, and our shared destiny. We fight for peace and for a galaxy free from tyranny and fear. We are the Stalwart, and we shall sail into the heart of darkness so that others may bask in the light of a brighter future. Today, we shall make history. As I finished my speech, the crew responded with resounding cheers. And I knew, despite the uncertainty of the battle ahead, we were united and ready to face whatever would come our way. The Cybrex ringworld was illuminated against the backdrop of the dark void, and it was difficult to imagine the devastation this ancient race had once wrought. The enormous structure looked otherworldly, its vast metallic bands stretching around the star at its centre, and it was hard to believe that something so beautiful harboured such destructive potential. Our task was clear. We would protect the larger capital ships from the Cybrex menacing starbases and swarms of advanced drones. The Stalwart may have been small, but we were agile and heavily armed. As we sped into formation with the rest of the fleet, I couldn't help but marvel at the sight of the countless vessels stretching out before me. The first flashes of energy weapons erupted, our Titan's peridition beams firing at maximum range. These were soon followed by a dazzling display of broadsides and torpedoes as our fleet closed range. The roar of our own kinetic battery added to the chaos, and the bridge reverberated with the rhythmic pounding of each shot. The Cybrex responded with a volley of devastating energy beams. Ion cannons came about, swiveling into position, firing slicing beams of murderous energy towards our fleet. A shiver ran down my spine as I watched one of our cruisers succumb to the deadly onslaught. Blasted apart, bow to stern. No one could have survived that. I watched as hangar bays across the ring began to open, and literal hordes of ships began to spill out, making great haste for our fleets. Seemingly from nowhere, capital ships began appearing at the opposite edge of the system. Their fleet was almost as large as our own, and they had Titans, battleships, and I even spied what appeared to be a juggernaut. Everything was firing now. Tachyon lancers, arc emitters, plasma cannons, mega cannons. We danced through the maelstrom, weaving between ships and dodging incoming fire. My crew, despite their fear, remained focused and resolute. We unleashed a barrage of fire on a Cybrex cruiser, but alas, our batteries didn't even break through the shields. I spied several enemy corvette fighters speeding towards the battleship anchor. We came about to give chase. Whirlwind missiles tracked and destroyed 2 of the 4 corvettes. Our Sentinel point cannons accounted for the 3rd and damaged the 4th, sufficiently enough that it appeared to lose drive and was sent hurtling through space. As we fought, I continued to feel a sense of pride for my crew and our entire fleet. With the battle raging around us, I clenched my jaw and gripped the arms of my captain's chair tighter. The fate of our galaxy hung in the balance, and I was determined to lead my crew to victory no matter the cost. The Cybrex would fall this day. The final report we have is from a weapons officer. Aboard the Titan-class vessel, the Watch, the tactical display before me was a flurry of activity. Our fleet was locked in a furious dance with the Cybrex's formidable defensive fleets. The echoes of orders and reports filled my ears, and I couldn't help but marvel at the spectacle unfolding around us. The collective might of our alliance was on full display, the resolve of countless species joining forces to combat this ancient menace. My fingers danced across the controls, coordinating our weapon systems with precision. As the primary weapons officer, I had one goal: to unleash the fury of our Titan's colossal Perdition beam on the Cybrex's formidable defences. Our shipbound AI would deal with point defence, and my junior officers were responsible for the ship's other weapon systems. My targets were the stationary starbases and defensive platforms surrounding the Ringworld. I synchronised the beam's recharge sequence with that of our sister ship, and our mighty Perdition beams unleashed a titanic twin blast of energy that seared through the void, striking the starbase with devastating force. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic, and I couldn't help but let out a triumphant shout as we watched the wreckage shatter into the void. But we had no time to revel in our initial successes, and the Cybrex retaliated with a vengeance. Their swarms of advanced drones descended upon us like a cloud of locusts, and the dazzling displays of the energy beam from their Ringworld defences were relentless. We were under constant fire, our shields straining and our armour taking a relentless beating. Amid the chaos, the Ringworld remained our ultimate target. It was the source of the threat, the embodiment of the ancient menace that had once terrorised this galaxy. As we continued to engage the Cybrex forces, we inched ever closer to our objective. The tactical display showed the coordinated effort of the entire fleet. Our allies were valiantly engaging the Cybrex remaining starbases and defensive fleets. An opening was being created for our Titans to close range. Eventually we managed to close into bombardment range, despite the multitude of Cybrex ships attempting to displace us. We began our assault on the ring itself. They could not stop us now. Victory would be ours. And that, my lords, brings an end to the events of the day. However, I must point out that several accounts from other ships suggest that in fact the Cybrex did not attempt to defend themselves at all, in any manner. Not a single shot was fired. Sadly, the truth of the matter has been lost to history. However, whatever happened, it would appear that not all of the Cybrex were destroyed. We know that some of the Cybrex survives to this day, and it has been reported that during times of galactic crisis, namely when the contingency makes itself known, the Cybrex will rise up and defend the galaxy from the genocidal machines. Thanks for watching, folks. If you want to learn more about the Cybrex and indeed the other Stellaris precursors, then please click the video on screen now.